it's Haley at Seamwork, and welcome to Seamwork Pattern Hacks, where I show you how to hack patterns. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make all sorts of really cool gathered sleeves with some slashing and spreading. Big sleeves are like so popular right now, and I'm going to show you how to make your sleeves even bigger and more beautiful than ever before. So let's jump in. In this hack, I'm going to show you how to do gathered sleeves, and this is really easy to do, and you can use these same principles to add gathers to lots of different kinds of garments. So we're going to be using a slash and spread method to add volume. First, I'll show you how to add just gathers to the cap of the sleeve. Then I'll show you how to just add gathers to the hem of the sleeve, and then I will show you how to add to both. They all have a lot in common, and they're all really easy to do. So let's jump in. First thing you're going to do is you're going to mark some slash lines on your pattern. We are going to, and this is going to be the same regardless of which one you're doing. If you're adding gathers to the cap, to the hem, to both, the slash lines are the same regardless. So our first slash line is going to be from our shoulder point, which is usually marked by a circle, to the hem, and we're going to draw a line that's parallel to the grain line. And on this sloper, the grain line is just pretty much 1/8 away from that. Yours will be different. Just use the grid on your clear ruler to find that nice parallel line. Lines 2 and 3 are going to be from the notch down to the hem, from the back notch down to the hem. So you might need a thicker ruler so that you can get nice and parallel here. If you don't have like a wider ruler, you can kind of eyeball it. It's not gonna like totally break it if you aren't super parallel. But if you're kind of worried about, messing things up, you could always mark a little mark and then flip your ruler around and then measure from your center line. That works too. And then our third line, I'm eyeballing it again because I feel like it. Also do what you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable eyeballing it, and if you're not, that's cool. And then our fourth and our fifth line are going to be between our center line and our notch line. So right here and then right here. And I'm going to approximate the center. It's about 4 inches away, so those lines, so I'll just do 2 inches. And just like with all hacks and fit adjustments, I always remove my seam allowances before I start. It makes things so much easier to true up, and then you're not confusing yourself. What's the stitch line? What's the cut line? You always feel like you're saving time by not cutting off the seam allowance, but trust me, you are. Okay, cool. So these are your slash lines. These are the lines you're going to add to every single variation of this hack. We're going to start with adding to the cap. So if you want to add some gathers to the cap of your sleeve, you are going to cut along these slash lines from cap to hem, leaving little paper hinges at the hem. Okay, so those are our slash lines, and you can already kind of see how those are going to function. The hinge allows us to kind of hinge right down at the hem so that this seam line's not changing at all, but up here we're getting more volume, and you can really, add just a little bit if you want. you know, a little bit of gather, something subtle, or you could go big and dramatic and spread more to get a more dramatic shape. Now that everything's slashed, we're going to tape it down on some paper and set those gathers to the silhouette that we like. So like I said, you can add really as much volume as you like here. I think that I'm going to add 1.5 inches between each slash line. So I find it easiest to start from the center slash line. I'm just going to mark on my pattern paper here, which is really just craft paper. I'm going to mark 2 little dash lines that are 1.5 inches away from each other. And then I can tape my sleeve on top of those little markers. And I always like to, especially when I'm just starting to tape, place something down to kind of anchor everything, because things are kind of unruly when they have this many slices in them. Okay. And I'm also going to place some tape on the other side of this little section. Then from here, I can measure 1.5 inches away again. So you can see that now that I'm slashing, these lines aren't really aligning anymore, and that's okay. We're going to adjust that and get that all smoothed out. When you're aligning your sleeve pieces with your little marks, don't like get too caught up and like, what part do I align? Am I doing it right? Pattern making is part art, part science, and this part is not one of the super scientific portions. So don't stress it. It's going to turn out cool. All right. Repeating over here. Okay, and then we're going to repeat for our final sections of our sleeve. Okay, so we have this big, very voluminous sleeve cap. The next thing that we want to do here is we want to add a little bit of lift to our cap here, a little bit of extra height. And the reason that we need some extra height here is because you want these gathers to have room to kind of bloom and open up. And if there's a lot of vertical tension pulling the sleeve from the cap to the hem, those gathers aren't going to like make a fluffy sleeve. It's going to be gathered, but it won't be voluminous necessarily. So typically, what's pretty standard is to add 2 inches of cap height. If you were doing something that wasn't quite so gathered, you probably could add a little bit less, but I would still add at least 1 inch. So I'm adding 2 inches. So I'm just measuring up from this center point. I can see my little circle there. and just marked a little dash line 2 inches up. I'm also going to make a new center point of my sleeve, and I can do that by measuring between these two, kind of the separated circle, and then measuring from my grain line up. And my grain line, my new grain line, is going to be right down the center of where I slashed my central slash. So here's my grain line, and then I can just kind of measure up from here and make a new little circle for myself. Now that those reference points are drawn in, we can use a curved ruler to redraw our sleeve cap. Our underarm seam is going to stay the same, more or less. It's been undisrupted. And our notches, since we didn't slash through those, are also going to stay the same. So we just need to use our rulers to get a nice, smooth shape. I need a bigger ruler. If you made a big dramatic sleeve like me, you might need to break out the big curved ruler, the hip curve, instead of the little guy. There is this rule that I was taught in pattern making that I like to break sometimes, and that's the rule is that you're not really supposed to manufacture curves. So manufacturing curves means using different parts of the curve to draw. So in an ideal world, you want to draw just one straight line and find the point on your curved ruler where you are able to do that. That also is considering like, oh, you have like a bunch of rulers at your disposal, and you might not. So I say, whatever, just forget that rule. I think that it's more important to make nice smooth lines, and if you have to zhuzh your curve to do that, then do it. Like here, I have like a little bit of a corner, so I'm just gonna smooth it out a little bit. That's okay. I like to teach the rules, and then you can break them how you see fit. Okay, and then I am just going to use my curved ruler here to kind of smooth out this little pointy bit. See, I tell you a rule, and then I just promptly break it myself. I want it to be like a smooth looking sleeve though. I don't want it to be funky. You don't want like a weird bump in the back of your sleeve. Okay. I'm just drawing in those notches again since I kind of drew my curve right through them. All right, and so that is my new sleeve cap. I have a little bit of extra height to accommodate those gathers, and I have a whole lot of extra volume. What you will do next is you will add some seam allowance all the way around your sleeve and cut it out. You can also trace it. I'm going to show you how to apply the same exact method to get some more volume in the hem of your sleeve. So you can see here on this sleeve where I added gathers to the hem that the method was exactly the same. I slashed and I spread along all the same lines, except instead of cutting from cap to hem, I cut from hem to cap, leaving my paper hinges up here. And then once everything was taped and secured, I dropped the center part of my hem 2 inches to allow for that kind of nice, smooth poofing action that our gathers can give us. From here, I would just add seam allowance and I would be ready to sew. Sometimes you might want to add gathers to the hem and the cap of the sleeve, and that's going to be a little bit different, but also very similar. We are going to start just like before by adding in all 5 of those slash lines. Okay, from here, we're going to slash our pattern to pieces, but instead of leaving any kind of paper hinge, we're going to cut all the way through. All the way through. All right, so we have all 6 pieces of our sleeve. What we want to do next is we want to add equal amounts of space between all 6 of these pieces so that we have 5 kind of parallel rectangles between each chunk. To do that, we need to do a little bit of advanced planning. All we're going to do is we are going to draw a line, a nice straight line, and this is going to be where we align the hem of our sleeve. If we don't have this kind of reference point, then our sleeve might get kind of all wonky. We don't want that. And then using this line, we're going to draw some parallel lines. I'm going to make these lines 1 inch apart, but you do you. Then I can grab the 2 centralmost pieces of my sleeve and tape them on top, aligning the hem and the slash lines with my guidelines. And then I'm going to repeat the same process. I'll draw a parallel line, 1 inch away, tape a sleeve piece. Draw another line, tape a sleeve piece. Do this until your sleeve is complete. All right, now that my pieces are all secured and taped in place, my final step is to add a little bit of height and a little bit of length to my sleeve to make those gathers fall nicely. That's going to be the exact same as what we did before. I'm going to mark a line 2 inches above my center of my cap, 2 inches below the center of my sleeve, and then I'll use a curved ruler to make nice, pretty curved lines. Now I've added that additional height and length to my sleeve. I have my finished sleeve pattern. All I have to do is add some seam allowance and then I can get sewing. On this guy, since I kept all of these lines parallel, I don't need to redraw my grain line. I don't need to redraw any of my notches. They're still there. I just have a new sleeve point because we slashed and spread right down the center of our last one. And that is our super gathered sleeve. There you have it. That is how you add all sorts of different gathers to your sleeves. I hope you're feeling inspired and I can't wait to see all your cool sleeves. See you next time and happy sewing. there you have it. All the gathers to delight your sleeves.